So today is a special meeting of the Advisory Committee on Sustainability here in the town of Darien. We are holding our first meeting of 2024, and this is considered an special organizational meeting to plan how we will manage our committee and how we will be working as a group for the remainder of this year and for 2025. We called to order at, I think, about 12:08. I thought I have an agenda and I sent it to all of you, and I printed some here. I thought since we haven't met in a while, the first important thing would be to just introduce ourselves, with a couple of interesting facts about you and how you ended up on Sustainability Committee. And we could go around the table, and I can start with Amanda, okay. If you'd like to do that, and then we'll get into the organizing part of the meeting.
So I'm Amanda Craig. I started maybe a year, was it last November, on this committee?
2 years, you've got to be 2 years.
Was it 2 years?
Yeah,
it goes so fast. But I love this committee. It's kind of a passion project for me. I love the sustainability stuff. We practice the composting at home. We have chickens. We use this town dump. Absolutely love it. We use a lot of their dirt, and we're always kind of looking for other ways. My mom does geothermal in her house, and she's done some kind of cool building products. So there's a lot of area of interest, and I love bringing this to the town and looking at the ways we can kind of save costs ultimately, but also just kind of appreciate the environment and what it's there for, and keeping it clean for the future.
Thank you. I'm Kathy Finnegan. I joined the committee, I think, in 2019, and I came to the committee, unfortunately, knowing Craig Flaherty, who was the chair, and chit-chatting with him in a personal manner. I was like, oh, you want to join our committee? As I talked about some of the work that I had been doing with the Climate Reality Project and some presentations in the community about weather and climate and environmental matters, and from the waste management side, sort of the plastic pollution that we all deal with in our lives and in our homes. So I started in 2019. I worked through, it was a good time. We got involved with Sustainable CT and worked on the application for that to certify the community. And then once that happened, we just kept going to do it a second time. And here we are, regrouping for 2024 and 2025 with hopefully some new blood and a new first selectman, and have a new way to kind of work with the community to implement what I would call best practices, whether that's food recycling or other environmental matters. That's kind of my hope, is to share what I'm learning and what I've learned, what we learn from peer communities with the town to go into their planning processes. That's me.
I'm Cliff Van Voorhees. I think I joined shortly after you did. So I've been through 2 cycles of the Connecticut sustainability reviews, certifications. I got involved, so I've lived in town since 1982, probably about when you were born. I've been very involved with international things for a very long time, and really have done nothing for the town. And my uncle was very active with the town. In fact, there's a plaque dedicated to him just outside this door, Gene Coyle. He kept wanting me to get onto the school board because I had started a charter school at the end of my career in the South Bronx, and from scratch. I mean, we didn't have a phone or a copy machine or anything. But I didn't want to be in anything political. And one day I was up at the transfer station, not the dump, and and I was just kind of distressed by people throwing into the single stream things that had no business being there. And so I tried to find somebody who knew something about all of this, and I did find my way to Carolyn Bain. And she invited me to come to a meeting, and I came to a meeting, and here I am.
Thank you for your service.
Lauren Rossi, my full-time gig is I oversee environmental and safety for a big pharma company. But I moved to Darien in 2019 and had previously been very active in my town of Morristown, New Jersey. I have a master's in sustainability. And so I was the president of a nonprofit out there who headed up the Sustainable Jersey certification for the town of Morristown. So very similar kind of projects and efforts there to the Sustainable CT certifications. And so, I mean, same thing. I've been in EHS forever. I wanted to, like when I was in college, I wanted to tie myself to a tree and save the world and work for Greenpeace. And then I figured out I could make a bigger difference working for the big companies, doing, things with the resources that they have. And so that's kind of how I ended up in corporate. But I still have a passion for the local environmental stuff. And that's what I want to do. And I hope that some of the things that I've learned being in corporate for the last almost 20 years in environmental health and safety and sustainability will help. And the nonprofit, of course, in town will kind of help us with some of the projects we have and some of that. And I can, hopefully bring some of that to the table. Fingers crossed. But yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much for joining.
Yes. Yes.
We know that Carolyn Bain, who has left the committee, but who hopefully will be an advisor on some of the things that she's an expert in, was very excited that you were willing
we
to join.
The environmental commission together, the EPC.
Yes, so we're glad to have you. Mohan is not here today. He has a degree. He has I believe, a technical and engineering background. Has a degree in sustainability, a master's program, I think through Yale possibly.
Right.
And so he is very interested in working on sustainability matters and some of the modeling that he's learned to do and some of the planning. So he's a great person to have on. It may be that he could have come at noon or may have thought that this was remote, which is what our meetings were in the past. So we'll have to straighten that out and make sure he's here. Okay.
And Dan, he's not on it.
Dan, our committee, I'm going to actually go from agenda item 1, welcome items, and I think it's appropriate to go to agenda item 5, which is open positions still available on the advisory committee. The committee can have up to 7 members, and so we're understaffed, or we are not full. Members of the committee are usually recommended by a political party or recommended directly to the select person, and then they're interviewed and accepted by the board. There are some limitations by political party that there can be a certain number of Ds and a certain number of Rs and a certain number of Us, and I believe right now we could take on, we want to take on people who want to be on the committee, but the committee could have one person registered as a Democrat and 2 that are either R or independent, unaffiliated. So no one is really not able to join the committee at this point in terms of the makeup of the committee. And I'm open to anyone who has ideas of people they know who for now or starting in 25 might be a good fit to work on, especially once we sort of have our work identified to someone that might be a good fit for the committee. So those positions are open, and I'm sure John would be, Zagrodsky, his first selectman, would be happy to meet people if there was someone that was a good fit.
So the swap shop group met earlier this week, and John stopped by, and I did mention to John that I thought it is maybe an idea, which he seemed to support, for recruiting volunteers for the town for voluntary, volunteerism is down in general, right? And he spoke to that point with our group. But perhaps he would do a video about recruiting volunteers and maybe mention, we need volunteers to swap shop, we need some people to step up here, maybe we can find some good candidates. If he could put a video out there, he likes to do videos, I think. He does them very well. So I thought maybe, we could mention something like that. I know these guys have other commissions where they're actively recruiting.
Okay,
That's a
great idea. That would be something that in the presentation to the selectmen, an ask or a to-do, because we'll give them as they wanted a look back and sort of a vision, and I think that beyond a vision, giving them certain asks, immediate asks, that would be a great one to assist in recruiting.
Yeah.
For the open spaces.
Yeah, so Reese Hutchinson and one of the other volunteers from the swap shop have started working on a video with him. So I'll get with them and see
Yes.
how it will be kind of worked in
Okay.
to the video, hopefully.
Okay. And I would, is that a hand raise?
No,
or
I'm sorry.
Hand raise. We as a committee, we'll get into our mission and things like that. We as a committee, I want to say up front, have separated as entities from the organizing committee of the swap shop. And so we will, while that has a place in waste management, it is not the purview of this committee to be managing it or involved in their day-to-day decision-making. Any of us that wish to volunteer, that's totally okay, and we would want to always know what the swap shop is thinking, but it might come to a point where we have a suggestion that we would provide to the selectmen that would ask for something that the swap shop could do or should do or shouldn't do, that would be part of our kind of advising on getting a handle on waste and reducing what goes into the hopper. So I just want to make that distinction. We don't run it. Prior to this, Dan Dulcetti was in charge of volunteers as a member of this committee, and that's all been separated to a different group.
Is Dan still with that?
Yes.
Yeah. So just want to make that clear. So in order to meet, I will pass around, you can look at it, we'll pass it the other way. And in order to meet as a commission, we have to follow FOIA rules, and the way the town works with committees is to establish a regular schedule, so that would be once a month, that we as a committee will determine when that is. And then that regular schedule is posted on the town website, and then every month prior to the meeting, an agenda is posted with a location and potential, Zoom link if they're remote meetings. So the first thing that I was asked to do by the town clerk when I went to schedule this meeting was to figure out a schedule for this year. And if we can't do it today, and I didn't put dates on it, if we can't do it today, and there are requirements via FOIA that it has to be up there a certain number of days in advance, and it has to have certain information and all that kind of stuff. So if we were to continue to do what the advisory committee did in the past, the committee met at noon, just like we're meeting now, on Wednesdays. I believe it was the second Wednesday of the month. And until COVID, we met in the building. And during and after COVID, we met remote, always remote. And that seemed to work with the person, Craig Fleury, who was the chair, and for Mohan, who is a full-time working person as well, that we stayed remote when COVID subsided, because we all had a time slot around lunch that worked for everybody. I have no preference one way or another, day meetings, night meetings, but we have to come up with a schedule. Again, Mohan's not here, so I would want his input before we were to make any final decisions. But I'm open for conversation what any of you all think would be the best way to meet.
I have two comments. If it's going to be Wednesday, noon is, if it could be 12:15, it would be much better for me because I have a meeting that ends at noon.
Okay.
The other thing is that I would really welcome having hybrid meetings so that you could either come in person or be online, because I spend half my time in Maine and I wouldn't want to have to miss a lot of meetings. Other than that, I'm very flexible, and if you wanted to change the day or the hour or something, my schedule's pretty flexible.
So you're saying hybrid being in person or remote?
Right.
Or at least remote? If not.
Well, that wouldn't be hybrid, but that would
Correct.
be fine.
Yeah.
You mean one meeting would have both options?
Every meeting, in my mind, would have both options.
We'd have to figure out how to do the they used to use GoToMeeting, they're using something else, and then having it aligned with people being able to see and hear. I know that people do meetings that way. I don't know technically how we would do it here.
Yeah, they have been doing it for some committees.
Okay, we'd have to figure that out if that were the route we chose. Anybody else? You have a
Yeah,
job.
this is fine. This should be fine. I mean, you know, meetings can be any time, but I don't have anything scheduled.
Okay. Does it work
I
for you?
like day better than evening, take from work and the kids. And anytime, anytime's fine.
So if we stick with Wednesdays, maybe we could say would 12:30 be better than 12?
12:15 is okay.
12:15?
I mean, whatever. Just 12 is a little hard.
I will ask Mohan to comment on this and then recommend a schedule. We can't do business out of meeting, but we can prepare a schedule that we would vote on the next time we met. How's that?
Sounds good.
Like, if I probably already know, like, I would miss June
Yeah, I mean,
meeting, and
nobody
so there's some things.
Yeah, nobody is
Yeah.
expected, if you're working on a project and you can provide input to the project to another member of the team or whatever else, then we would do that. But we all have lives and travel or business or whatever.
Yeah. Well, I'm expecting a baby.
Oh my goodness, well, congratulations.
So that would be the main reason, but yeah.
Okay, well, congratulations on that. We will not expect
that
you
would be
during
the June,
that time.
the
June,
first.
well,
yeah.
May, June,
The
July,
end
you're
of
gonna be a
May,
little
so,
busy.
Yes.
Well, congratulations on that, but so a hybrid option is also good for you
First?
going forward.
This is the second.
Second.
And last.
I thought it was one and done.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, all right, so I can fill it out as if it were to be Wednesday at 12:15. Let Mohan comment on it, and then we could formalize that the next time we get together. Is that okay?
Well
That
done.
sounds good.
Yeah.
All right, now to the next part of this agenda was officers. The committee needs to have a chair, a vice chair, and a secretary. And there are 5 of us, and there are 3 roles and responsibilities, which means that somebody gets a pass. The chair is the person who deals with this schedule and sets up an agenda, and I did that. That was my responsibility in 2023. I am willing to do that for 1 year. As I came back to the committee, I would not consider it any further than that. The vice chair is someone that has the duty to run a meeting if the chair isn't there. Beyond that, it's a small enough committee that the vice chair doesn't, have a lot of responsibility other than being the backup to the chair, and a secretary is the person who would write and submit the minutes for each meeting, because they have to get written and submitted to the town to be posted on the website.
Just kind of out of left field thought, what do you think about, since there's only 5 of us, having everyone have a role? Because then it kind of evens the playing field, if that makes sense. So for example, maybe there's financial obligations or financial thing, like a budget spreadsheet or something that we want to ask the town for. Maybe we want a financial person, maybe we want somebody leading the sustainable CT, and they could just be sustainable CT lead. And then I think the that would be fine. But those are just ideas that I.
Yeah, I think that that's what happens, that this part of the organizing is to meet the requirements for
It's
the
just
town.
formality.
Is formality. I think the work will be split. Someone will work on EV adoption, someone will work on
Yeah.
food scraps, somebody
Sure.
would take on to be the lead on sustainable CT and to communicate with them. So I think you're right, responsibilities have to be shared.
Absolutely.
The chair and the secretary do have monthly work. But then everything else is really split.
Yeah. I guess I was just saying, make the formality actually have a value to us, maybe, potentially. So we could use it to say like, oh yeah, that person, I don't know.
Would you agree that once we sort of really agree on what our priorities would be, what people would do? We do not really have any financial duties because we do not have a budget. We are purely an advisory role, so, and we hopefully have a member of one of the departments that would be our contact that we would work with if we needed things. That was Public Works Department before. So we have a lot of organizing work to do to, I think, assign those roles that you're talking about. I think you're spot on. I don't quite know yet how we're gonna split up what we do and where we're gonna focus till we have the next conversation and then present that to the Board of Selectmen in a week to then identify
Yeah,
the bigger roles.
Yeah, I think maybe I did talk to John about the budget question, because I hear that there's no budget, that this is an advisory commission. But I mentioned, potentially, I just, questioned John, if we were to have things, how does that work? How does, and he also, like I said, came to the swap shop meeting, same question. Well, same answer. You can have a list of things and, ask for them and present them. So if it's through what was it, Public Works?
Yes.
That sounds different than through a list of things that we could present to John. So
And he may operate things differently. We're not living by what's out of the past, for sure. But we do not have the authority to spend money. We have the authority to advise the first selectman on what they do in their work. And to do that, we might say, in order to engage the public, we need to do X, Y, or Z. And there would have to be budget funds associated with that, whether that came from the selectman's budget. All those kinds of things, when we needed it, came out of the Public Works budget in the past.
Okay.
So the Public Works Department would fund brochures, the Public Works Department would fund if we were purchasing compost to give away. So that's where the money went, and that was the coordination. So I don't know, I think you're right on, there will be a role for somebody to coordinate those things, but I don't know what those are yet, till we.
So can I add to this?
Yes, please do.
Because I think you're on the next agenda item, but to your point, we have to have a president that does all this paper shuffle and gets that guy in place and gets the hybrid going, or the Zoom, or the minutes, the agenda, somebody does that, and then, not the minutes, that's the secretary, and they have to hand them into the town. And so there's these roles we have to, kind of our check and balances with the town that they've requested of us.
That's correct.
And so there's that, which are useful, somebody has gotta get Tyler here. Right, they're really useful roles, but that's even to be a committee today. And then, to your exact point, what we've done in the past that we'll likely do is we all come with passion projects or pieces we want to take. I've got little kids, one grew up, but so we're in the schools. So I love the school stuff and the school way. So it's ooh, there's a to-do item, action right here. I want to do that one. And Mohawk likes this electric stuff, and Cliff is some other stuff, and so we kind of pick then what our areas of interest are, or where we can be valuable, or where we're connected or networked, or so I think to your point, if there were a budget piece where we wanted to say, hey John, we think the money should be allocated towards X, Y, and Z, one of us would be raising their hand and say, hey, I'd be happy to write that up and then bring it back to the committee. The president or whoever, the president, would then put that on the agenda, get Tyler in the house to get us going, we'd have our meeting, that person would bring it in.
Historically, we've rarely needed money, and when we did, we always were able to get it.
Okay. Yeah, just, he did mention that now is a good time for budget planning if we do have something.
Well, and that's totally true, because they will be going through their budget process. One of the things I did was chair CBSP and work with the Board of Education when it was on the budgets for the school system. So the budget planning system, the budget plan for 2026 in the town of Darien starts now and ends with votes to either the selectmen vote, the Board of Ed vote. They have separate budgets. Those budgets then go to the Board of Finance that votes, and then those budgets end up going to the representative town meeting. So there is a 6 months process which starts now, and which money for 2026 will be asked for. So our role as an advisory committee might be to say, we think in your 2026 budget, you need to budget for an off-site location to drop off food scrap recycling. And then we work with people to figure out where that might be and what it might cost and what grant money we could offset some of that cost, but what they would budget for. And that would be if the Board of Selectmen said, yes, we want food scrap recycling to grow in our community and we're willing to take X steps, and we would budget for it. So that is our role, to find the things that the town should be focusing on in the areas of expertise that we have, absolutely. We also do a lot of community outreach. For example, Amanda worked around Earth Day in 2023 with Whole Foods to have a demonstration at Whole Foods and for them to have our buckets, the compost kits and things like that. So the outreach work, the things on working with the communications director in the community, Marley Hayes, those are all things we'll get into how we do it, who does it. What I would hope to do today is that we can establish who will be the chair, the vice chair, and the secretary, because those people have to report on this meeting and schedule the next meeting, and that's all. You cannot, under Freedom of Information Act, we have to operate the way the town operates any public body, which is what we are. So I know Mohan is not here. We could put this off till the next meeting if he had an interest in taking on any of these positions. Like I said, I'm happy to chair for this year with a vice chair that maybe would want to take it on after that.
I have served as secretary, I think, for 3 or 4 years, and I served as vice chair for 1 year. I think when I was vice chair, I led 1 meeting, I think. Anyway, I would nominate you to be the chair. And I think maybe that would be a good starting place.
And I would nominate Mohan to be the vice chair.
And I would second that
because
nomination.
I think he would have been somebody, had I not returned, that would have been,
I think you're right.
willing, was anxious about communicating with the town.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I would second that nomination, assuming he's willing.
I'm willing to have co-secretaries, and like I said, we'll all split up the project work under, I think passion projects is a great way to put it, because you're not going to put me on EVs if what I really want to talk about, know about is food waste.
So do I have a nomination on the table? I think I do.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
I will.
Okay, so we
that
have
would
a
be,
chair.
We have a chair.
Now you're in charge.
Okay. Now I can follow all this paperwork. Okay. Okay. Shall we hold off on vice chair to see if it is something that Mohan would be willing to do?
I would suggest that. I would agree with that.
And of the two of you, can you act as secretary or offset months or 50-50 co-secretaries? I know you're going to have a baby, so you may not want to take that on for too long, or maybe.
Secretary's fine, yeah. I'm happy to do that. Consists of note taking and sending out minutes following the meeting. Does it also consist of creating an agenda
No.
in advance? Okay, great. I'll just do that. Sure.
Well, I would.
Outstanding, I second that.
You're nominating yourself? Anybody agree?
All in favor?
All in favor. Okay. Okay. So
Thank you.
That'd
Thank
be
you very
fabulous.
much. Thank you. So I said-
And you're gonna do a better job than I would.
My minutes they get really long, so.
Well,
See, mine would have gotten really short. Met.
I was secretary at a condominium association, and our attorneys advised us to keep them short and simple, noting the
my game, but I'll try.
no, noting the important points. We are also on Channel 79, so our meetings are recorded and people can watch them.
Yeah, so if you miss anything in the meeting, you can look at the tape.
Oh, yeah, that's a
Helps
good
to
point.
do the minutes, but
Yeah.
it took me over an hour every time I did the minutes.
Oof. Glad you told her that after we voted.
Well, I hope we can run these smoothly. Okay, so if we move on.
And when you're out, I'm happy to take on for you.
Great.
Perfect, that sounds perfect. And then.
If you like, I'd be happy to do the minutes for today as a sample for you.
That'd be outstanding.
I don't mind.
Okay.
I think what I typically do is have a draft and then send it to you for your
Right.
approval and you can.
For additions and corrections.
Yeah, sounds perfect.
You can see the format online if you. That we
Oh, it
use.
has to be a certain format?
It doesn't
Can't
have
be
to
Lauren's
be.
format?
It doesn't have to be, but there's certain things that should be there, right?
Okay.
Yes, our minutes are all online.
Okay.
Okay, so moving on, trying to keep to a reasonable time frame, although we can get through as much as we can. We did one, we did two, we talked about open positions, so I think we'll be skipped ahead. The revised mission statement, I'm not so sure we need to spend much time, but I took, oh, wait a minute, I'm wrong thing. The revised mission statement, I made copies of the mission statement, and this was, here, I'll pass that down. This was, okay, agreed to, if you have it too, this was written with involvement, I think, of Lauren, Carolyn Bain, myself, John Zagrodsky, that took prior mission statements and tried to make them sensible to where the Board of Selectmen were ready to reinstate the committee since it was on hold for about 6 or 8 months. And the mission, I think, is the broad statement. The mission of the advisory committee is to advise the board on best practices available to municipalities in areas such as waste reduction, energy efficiency, conservation efforts, and creating a sustainable community using the sustainable CT model as a reference. The reason that that's in there is there are categories within sustainable CT that are broader than or more in detail than those sort of 5 points: waste, energy, conservation, sustainable community. So that is agreed that that's why we're here.
I wish it had recommendations and best practices, because right now we're kind of alluding to, we're gonna make recommendations, but that's an awful hardy piece to not, currently how it's worded is best practice. So we're gonna tell them what the world is doing that's best practice,
Well, I
with the
made it,
assumption we're gonna recommend.
I see the word advise at the beginning, advise the Board of Selectmen, so to me
On
that is
best
recommended.
practices.
Yes,
On
that,
anything.
I see that,
On anything we want
yes.
to.
That we'll be looking at the areas, and obviously the areas that we would spend much of our time on, hopefully, would be areas that the selectmen are interested in working on or budget planning for, as part of what we do. And I think the positive side is we've got to start to have an opportunity to meet with them in a couple of weeks with at least our first broad look at what we're interested in working
Yes.
on. That has to mesh with them.
So,
That's
from
a
my, I'm totally happy with this mission statement. I think in the past, and for me, I have some issues around advising. I know we're an advisory committee, but I want to do things. I want to get things done. And I think when we start to look at things like the objectives, now you're talking about getting things done. And our involvement is, you know, we suggest this be done, and they say, yeah, that's right, and we go do it. You know?
That is correct. That is absolutely the objectives. I'm gonna, if you wanna talk about the first one maybe among yourselves, I have someone getting on a
Okay.
plane to Japan, I need to go return a very fast call, I'll be back in 2 minutes.
So the first one on the list, I'll just hop in because I've been around this now for multiple years. The food scrap program is one of the successes that we've had in this town. We are not yet at a total break even in terms of the amount of food scraps diverted from the system in terms of dollars and cents, the cost to remove it versus leaving it in single stream, not single stream, but in the stuff going to the incinerator. You're probably more aware of this than I am, but you know, the incinerator gets about 1/3 of its stuff is food scrap, and it's all full of water, so it inhibits the burning. And it's useful stuff. So, I mean, this is Carolyn Bain gets obviously the credit, most of the credit for that, and she's done a great job. But there's just so much more we can do with this, and I'm glad that it's on our objectives for 2025. Particularly impactful would be if we can get the Board of Ed, because the schools just throw away so much food, I mean masses of amounts. And then an education program around it to get more people to use our program. So one of the problems we have in this town is that many people use haulers for their trash, and the haulers aren't prepared to do food scraps. I mean, my next door neighbor actually has Compost Connecticut or something come to his house and take the scraps. You know, I'm really proud of him for doing that. But anyway, I'm happy to see number one that she asked us to discuss on our list, and I hope we can really do some good things with that.
The Board of Selectmen seemed very interested and supportive when I spoke with them about this. Just very briefly, when you say we need to get the Board of Ed, like what does that look like?
That's the good question. So the Board of Ed operates independently, right? The first selectman does not control the Board of Ed. And so
You're the director of facilities and waste?
Yeah, we've been in touch with various parties. You've been in touch with some parent committees and things on that, haven't you? A little
Well, principals are on board. You gotta get the director of facilities, which is a new turnover, and he didn't seem super interested in looking at this. And their contract just came up, which would have been the time to get in, and I don't know what, and then this committee went to sleep.
Well, we've lost a year, and we're
But you probably reiterated or re-upped some of those contracts by now.
Yeah, and we're kind of out of touch with what's been going on. But I spoke to the superintendent of schools one time about this, and he said, yeah, great, send me something. And I did, and asked for a follow-up meeting and got nothing. And I sent several follow-ups, spoke to the secretary, nothing. No, not even, sorry, we can't do this, or we're not interested, just nothing. And I spoke to Dan Dulcetti. You know Dan from the swap shopping. And Dan told me very confidentially that something was about to happen at the Board of Ed, and nothing could be done until then, but he had a friend on the Board of Ed, can't remember who it was, maybe even the chairman of the Board of Ed, who was interested and sympathetic to this. So, I mean, I think this is a great thing to have as one of our objectives. And I think we're going to need a multi-pronged approach. Maybe we can get some parents to be expressing interest in this, approaching people who are in the school administration, and also at the board level of the Department of Education. I think the multi-pronged approach will be necessary.
Have you benchmarked with other towns who may have done this successfully?
We have spent.
I'm sure Carolyn.
I'm not being disrespectful to you. We are active in food scrap groups through Sustainable Fairfield County. Carolyn was one of the leaders in doing this in the town. We have tremendous amount of information to share. It was access in 2023 to people in our own town as to how some of these programs that are available for grant funding that's available, success stories in Greenwich, New Canaan, and Wilton, Westport, West Hartford.
She had a project plan that included all the steps of how this would be implemented.
Yes, pilot, to start a pilot, we had it all. We had it all.
Well,
And
yes.
we had some elementary interested and open to doing that.
So
and then we got the new director of, what was he, facilities?
Facilities. And I think we can't really look back too much at that at this point. We can say, I think we can confidently say that expanding the town's food scrap is important. There's two ways. One is to coordinate with the Board of Ed, because many of our peer towns are doing this, and there's a story and many benefits. There are cost benefits to getting food out of the waste stream. There are benefits to taking food that isn't eaten on food sharing tables. There's a whole series of steps. The committee can learn all of that. Carolyn knows it, I know some of it. The groups that are supporting this in our county exist. So there's lots of information. So setting up a goal to work with our Board of Ed and to work with the town administration to begin to pilot, because you have to start somewhere, and see how it works, and see how it works with your custodians and your teachers and all of that kind of stuff. So that is an area that we need entrance to the school administration through the Board of Selectmen. And you can define the cost benefits as well as the sustainability and environmental benefits to managing food waste in the schools. You can also manage general recycling, because they don't really even recycle very well. Second part of the food scraps is, right now we're stuck at the people that like to take their bins to the dump and drop them here are doing that, but that is a very small percentage of the food waste. Most food waste at most people with private haulers is going into the garbage, and food waste is about 1/4 of the weight of your garbage. And so working with the town to figure out how we can make the program more robust in our own community is what Carolyn was working on quite a bit. And I think she will be willing to guide us through some of this.
Yeah, does she have the implementation plan somewhere?
I don't think that word is really, we didn't have we have all kinds of data and ideas and work that we've done over time. We don't have a plan yet that and 1.5 years has gone by. Anything we have is now outdated. The data is outdated. So we would be going back at the Board of Selectmen by updating Carolyn's work to the present, I think would be the best way to talk. We're not starting from scratch, but we don't have a finished product to show. But these are the things that John Zabrodsky said were very important to him and to the town on food waste. So these are I think our next meeting, once we get through all this organizational stuff, would be who's going to do which part of this. And that's where you're saying, okay, who's going to coordinate with the superintendent or the Board of Ed or whoever it is we decide are the people that we can have this conversation with.
I think there's a C and a D. C would be trying to get more local businesses and facilities like the senior facilities and the low-income housing, different facilities in town that generate a lot of trash, trying to get them into. Part of the sustainable CT thing, we interviewed people in the, what do they call
the Royal.
The Royal. Yeah, we interviewed a lot of people there, and it's a tricky thing to do, but I don't think we should give up on it. So
yeah, no, this is very broad. This was meant to be a one-pager that the Board of Selectmen would look at and say, I agree, this is a committee. This is not our working plan. This is really, I think, a general statement of the kinds of places that we could contribute to the town. And we would be expanding this, absolutely, Chris, because I have an adamant feeling looking at Darien Commons, where I work, at the lack of implementation of sustainable practices within a private complex that's brand new, that does not follow best practices at all.
Well, I was part of what I was doing,
yeah.
was interviewing David Genovese about putting in food scrap recycling facilities in his new project, the Corbin project. And
yeah.
I was supposed to be going back to him, but we had the rug pulled out from under us. But I take your point, but I mean, if the Board of Ed approves it and it says expand the town's thing and it says A and D, it seems to me I'd rather see A be one line, B be one line, C be, and then D is the haulers.
I also think this at bottom that says BS approval pending, I believe this was already presented to the Board of Ed. This was John. I think the pending part of this isn't a live document anymore. I think this is what was given when they reinstated the committee. What we will give them is a broader one of this, exactly, and
okay.
we'll
and so
expand it.
C and D being the haulers.
Yes.
Wait, what was C? Sorry.
C is to businesses and other sources of single sources of large amount of food, which could include the senior residences in town and the new buildings that have just been put up in Rodin Heights and Corbin Drive. things like that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I maybe misstated, this was the document that was written and given to the selectmen in order to say this is what this committee will generally do, and it wasn't meant to be all-encompassing of every step, it was meant to be why we need to exist. And in 2025, the areas that we would be probably focusing much of our effort.
Yeah, I think they wanted us to, the sense that I got was to really focus on the key projects. And they were particularly interested in this program, the food scraps, and in reference to the schools as well. So I think like that was kind of their top, but I think, yeah, it makes sense to keep in scope the other organizations.
Yes.
I think there's a lot to talk about under this. And
Yes,
if we need to open it up, like there's opportunities to have like audits and surveys done for some of these businesses, get data from specifically from those businesses, pulled together, present it to the board, have with our findings.
Absolutely, and today's meeting was not to create those to-do lists.
Yes.
It was to at least all kind of feel like where we're gonna work is in waste management, food recycling, and then build a case for things with current information that we can. The following things, again, this wasn't really meant to be too much of a discussion document, except that where they understand that we can use sustainable CT and all the examples that we have that are written and posted when there's something that we think Darien might be interested in doing, we can leverage the success stories that are all published from that process. For example, there's community source funding that the sustainable CT will match whatever you can raise. So if you have a project that you can raise $5,000 for through town budgets or donations, and you can ask sustainable CT to match that $5,000, so you can do a $10,000 pilot program in a school with food scraps, things, and it's a very broad idea of what you could get grant funding for. It could be to build a rain garden, it could be to do sidewalks, it could be things that had to do with mental health services. So leveraging that framework is something that we have the ability to do, and we as a group know more about, but those through our interactions with the application and with our peer towns. That's all that really meant. Number 3 is renewing sustainable CT certification, which we will decide when we would be willing, if at all, to take that on, because our certification will be expiring at the end of next year. So it will come up as to whether the town wishes to engage in redoing that. So that's not decided, it's not a to-do list, but this committee would oversee that if in fact we go for recertification. That's to be determined.
Yes, but you know how I feel about it.
I understand that.
So
I'm not.
you don't know how I feel about
I don't.
it, so I'm going to share it. Okay.
Please do.
I thought the first time we did it, it was eye-opening. It helped us to look at different things that we hadn't necessarily looked at in the past. So it was an educational benefit more than anything. The second time we did it, the incremental knowledge was minimal, and so much of the activity is just documenting what you're already doing to get the certification, rather than doing something new. I mean, I'd rather use my time and effort to do some of the things that need to be done than just to document that we're doing things. So I'm not a big fan of doing another certification, just to get it out there.
It's a lot of work too.
Oh yeah.
There's very
yes.
little manpower here.
Well, a lot of it's busy work too.
And that will be a conversation in 2025, and
Yeah.
maybe we
Yeah.
can't do it till 2026, or we won't do it at all, or we will do it with interns, or we will hire a person.
I'm not
It's
suggesting
not
we
a,
decide. I'm not suggesting
Yeah,
we decide.
I mean,
just
there's
wanted-
obviously a whole nother side to the coin, right? Where this could add a lot of value. This adds a lot of value to the town. We can talk about it. We can get this funding potentially for some of these projects.
It'll be a good discussion.
You know, yeah. I mean, I think I am on the record supporting it.
Okay.
But I understand your position, and you know, when I did the Sustainable Jersey certification for Morristown, I did 90% of that work, and it was hard. And
Yeah.
I was up till 4 a.m. every day writing this stuff, and it was,
We
you know, and
we've got
it's a
some
paperwork
people who
exercise.
have
I get it.
experience with this.
Yes.
But it's the
we all-
paperwork exercise where it's like, I get it.
And I think the
Yeah.
answer to that is if the town sees benefit in their planning process, that this is part of, we're doing these things and we're already doing things, or there are things we're not doing that if we do them we get points for.
Right.
Is there a value there? And that's a big conversation.
Right. Yeah.
When we first did it, the first selectman, Jamie Stevenson, was on the board of directors of Sustainable CT. So she understood what we were doing and why we were doing it. So, and it was new, and now we've recertified from bronze to silver, and whether we try to do another silver or just a bronze or go to gold, or I mean, there are all levels of certification that we may or may not undertake with this committee, where maybe this committee can't do it without X resources, or staff has to be assigned. So we'll see. But that would be in there. I mean, and that was part of the reason you can't recertify without having that committee. So it's kind of like, if you want to do it, you have to have a committee to do it. So one way or another.
I ran the nonprofit that did it, so it wasn't actually a town commission.
Yeah,
it
yeah,
was a nonprofit. Which
in
is
some
a different
communities
position.
it is
And
that.
the town paid the nonprofit.
No, it was
Where did the money come from?
All right, so I think knowing.
The money
We'll
came
talk
from the
about it.
town, but we didn't get paid, I mean, as volunteers, right? But yeah, projects, yeah, everything.
So,
Kathy, when's the Board of Selectmen meeting?
well, so that, I was gonna say, we've spent a lot of time on this particular document, and what we have to do.
I'm sorry, before we move on to the next document, it just occurred to me, Cliff's comment about advising versus taking action on our mission statement, perhaps we wanna edit that.
I don't think we have the option.
We
I
don't.
think this is it, but
I just think it might come back to bite us a little bit if
so
we.
I'm very sensitive to this. I'm with you. I'm
Okay.
totally with you. I think these other things give us the opportunities we need. Even the thing about sustainable CT, that opens up all kinds of possibilities for us. And every recommendation has an action plan and needs, implementation.
But they're not recommendations.
It's not just a recommendation. It's like
It's an action and a recommendation. That's why it's so odd to me that it says advise on best practices. That's a very passive statement.
Yeah,
I mean,
that-
even if it just
ignore
said advise and take action as necessary, or something fluffy, or that could give us a little bit of.
I get it, believe me. I brought it up.
I mean, one of the
Right there.
things that for the meeting is if you wanna take a crack at, like I said, this was a document prepared months ago to explain to John what this committee would do so that he could go to the Board of Selectmen and say, I want to reinstate this committee. So this was a working document for them, and
It's fine.
we can edit it and take it to our meeting on saying that we think a better version or more tightened up version might include, but like I said.
Would that be at this meeting?
Yeah, we would bring you, so.
December
Cliff?
2nd, not far away.
It's a week and a half from now.
Yeah.
Not far away.
No pressure.
December 2nd at 7 p.m. It's right on the agenda. It's right written there.
I think, Kathy, in your,
And-
you look, in your 22, vision based on newly created mission statement, that's where we put it, that's where we put what we want to do, what we want to accomplish. And that will include action verbs, not just blah blah, not just talking, action. And you've got actions, in this you've got actions that are.
And they want actions.
Yeah,
Well,
I think so.
I think they do, and if they don't, it'll become clear. And if they don't, okay, I'm not interested.
And maybe
in
that's a
just
good
talking.
question for the second. Like, do they want action, or do they just want some paper shuffle that advises them on best practice? Maybe they just want to be educated.
Well, if
Or
we
do they
can-
want us to start making calls in the community and like,
Yeah,
move things along?
My approach generally to something like this is to say what we want, not what they want. And put it in a way that hopefully they will see that they want it too. And if they don't, they're gonna be rejecting it. And all right, now we've got a conversation that needs to take place. I mean, do you wanna sit on a committee that is just throwing out ideas and nothing ever happens? Or do you wanna be involved with something where you've got an idea, you present it in a way that has an action plan, they endorse it, and you're part of the action plan?
And I think that the understanding of having a committee is the latter. I think
That's the way we've operated,
that's the
basically,
way we've
especially with Jamie
operated
Stevenson.
was
She was very supportive of our committee.
we went to them and came up with Carol and Bain
Yeah.
came up with a food scrap recycling proposal, and they implemented it.
I think this-
So that is no different. I don't think this is any different.
I guess it's different than where we've been since Jamie.
After she left.
Cause we've done a lot of time, and I guess that's where my pushback is, we've spent a lot of time coming up with great ideas and pushing and making calls and writing letters and writing more letters and calling and trying and doing, and then they put us to bed. So I guess I want a more clear, I'll bring you ideas and work on it all day long, but I need to know that you want that and you're gonna like, let there be room for that and not it fall on deaf ears and we put a lot of time and energy into
I
it.
couldn't agree with you more, and that's the whole reason I brought it up in the first place. And I think John will disagree with us and shoot some things down, I'm sure. But we won't have to wonder whether he's gonna support us or not. He'll let us know.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
And then we don't put our energy into that, we go in the other
Yeah,
direction that he will
yeah.
support.
If there's something that's a non-starter, I mean, the leaf blowers is probably an example. I mean, I think we should be pushing very hard for electric leaf blowers. He doesn't think so. Anyway, we don't, there's not enough time for this. I think we're in a good place with what you've got here, Kathy, especially now we're about to do this December 2nd thing. You know, we put in there what it is we're hoping for, right?
Yes, and knowing that we're past 1 o'clock, which is usually when we are adjourned, I took adjournment off of the schedule because the town clerk said if you go longer, you know, the public knows you're meeting. If we had said 1 o'clock adjournment, we kind of have to, because that's what we said. So we're still here if somebody were to walk in. And I don't want to take too much of anybody's time, but can you stay a few more minutes, or you're all ready to go?
No, I can stay.
Okay. So what I took was Carolyn Bain's 2022 summary, and I didn't make copies for everyone, but I took Carolyn's 2022 summary of what we did, and I turned it into 1 page, and I took the 2023 summary that I wrote and condensed it. And those went to the Board of Selectmen at the time, went back in through Public Works into the Board of Selectmen. So
That's your look back.
that's the look back. So
That was nice,
I basically took that look back.
Yep.
That's a lot of work, thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, it was about
Amazing.
6 pages that I edited to 3 pages, and I could probably edit it down. But
Thank you for
we
doing
have
that.
to understand that some of the people on the Board of Selectmen may not know who we are or
Right.
what we
No, I
did.
know, that was so good.
And we don't have to read them 3 pages. I will have copies available for the
Yeah.
Board of Selectmen, but to give the history
Yeah.
generally and say, we work a lot with the town on improving its recycling efforts. We did a lot of community outreach, Whole Foods, the Darien Library, Talking Trash, on and on, the Recycling Center Facebook page that would say recycle right, working on the information that went in the dump stickers. So all of that stuff is in here for them as a record. So I don't know that we need to present much of this, but in the presentation to the Board of Selectmen, I meant to ask how long it is. I'm assuming it's a 15-minute, 20-minute time frame. I don't know for sure. If it's 5 minutes, then we'll be handing them something to read. But this is the look back, because the request that came in from the Selectman's office was, we'd like you to present on December 2nd at 7 p.m. a look back and a vision forward. So that was the task that we were given, and I think this should fulfill the look back.
Yep.
The question of what is our vision and specific asks is really what's left to do. I think the specific asks, one of them was to help with recruiting. We already know that's introductions to the Board of Ed, so I know of 2 specific asks that we've already said today.
I'm sorry. So just, I know, so it's 3 pages, and I know you did a great job. There's so much good stuff to talk about and to say. Are we going to, I'm assuming that it makes sense to put together a short PowerPoint type.
I'm going to ask them what access to doing any of this online,
Okay.
or visually is. I haven't done that because I didn't have time. I mean, this came up so last minute.
Yeah. Well, just assuming that it is going to be a PowerPoint and we can use some visual aids there. does it make sense to just summarize in a few bullet points and then say, and by the way, you know, attached is our thorough, you know, background for your reference.
Yes.
For the
Yes.
past stuff.
I spent many years at Procter & Gamble in marketing.
Yeah,
So-
okay.
Keep it straight.
And presentations to, you know, to this board and to the at the public library. Yes, if we have access to something for sure, PowerPoint, that would be the way to go. But the data would come from this. The information we share would really be our history and the areas we worked on in recycling, the areas we worked on in community outreach, the work we were doing on EV readiness to sort of build an inventory of what this town owns by vehicles. Mohan did a tremendous amount of work in that area. So those were the things we worked on as in addition to sustainable CT certification. So this is the look back. I don't think that it requires much more discussion among us at this point if we want to talk about what we want to say is our vision for 2025.
Right.
If I were on the board of selectmen, I might be curious as to all the great stuff we did, how it came about. Like, so was it a result of, you know, Mohan doing the inventory for the vehicles or whatever? Was that under the sustainable CT service? So as a result of sustainable CT, you know, this is something that came out of it or whatever, right?
Yeah, and that one isn't a good one because
Well,
they told us to not
just
work on it.
example.
They were they didn't want us spending time on that.
Okay.
Or on
So the things that
phones.
did go well, you know, perhaps we could just attribute them to what, because then, you know, that might affect what we choose to do in the future if we got so much, if they and us got so much value from those specific projects.
At the very,
and we want support for it.
in looking at the sustainable CT, there are many, many examples. There's a 70-page application that has highlights, and again, we can't go into that, but we can provide them the link to look at what we.
I think
What was
more,
certified.
if I hear you right, Lauren, she's saying, how did we end up getting the compost recycling going? How did we end up getting those bins and selling them? How did we end up getting the swap shop going?
That goes way back before 2022 to 2019.
I worry about, I mean, we're not gonna have a lot of time with them.
Yeah,
And
I just
just
think
to
maybe
get
a
them-
couple little examples of that might help us.
Well, I
demonstrate
did.
what
I
we
mean, in the
need support for.
history, we focused on I mean, the committee's been here for 10 years. This is the history. It was called Energy and Recycling.
In that last year,
I
because
see.
this thing ended in what month was that this ended?
We ended in December of 2023. We haven't met in 2024.
I mean, if it's not gonna add value, that's not.
So like there's
Yeah.
that, what I think we do get a lot of, especially vision going forward, which I think was a little unclear what the vision of the town was versus our committee, and are we
In
collaborating?
2024. In
Right?
2023.
25, like let's understand we're all on the same page. So when you go in 100%, say we have 20 minutes for conversation, let's spend some time on here, but let's really like drive home.
Absolutely.
Are we advising, do you want paper shuffle from us of what best practices are? I'll make you a pretty brochure and you can like know? Or do you want me to be doing things? Do you want me to recommend things you should be helping me with? What exactly do you want going forward? Here's where we'd like to focus.
Yeah,
Can you give me a meeting? Can you come to a meeting?
These were John's focuses, by the way, those 5 things.
So does that
came from
mean
him.
he's coming, you know, he's gonna like, I go back to that facilities guy, cause he was a huge roadblock.
Yeah.
And he's a little guy in mid-management, he's not Board of Ed, definitely not Selectman's office, and he's not even the principals, he's this mid-level, the principals were on
And my
it,
understanding
he
is,
wasn't.
my understanding is that John is open to making the introductions to explain why this is important to the town and have conversations about recycling that affect the Board of Ed. That we wouldn't be going from the bottom up to convince someone, we'd be starting here talking about how we could work on
And
this.
so that I'd like to bring into the meeting and him, in that selectmen group nod in agreement,
Sure.
that that's where now we're integrated.
Well, that's my ask, is introductions
That's
to
C.
the Board of Education.
That's C, the specific asks.
That's the ask.
B, the vision. I think our vision shouldn't be a question. I think our vision should be a statement.
Mhm.
These are the things that we see that make sense for us to do. And then the only question to them is, are you going to support this? Are you going to
Right.
endorse this?
That's right.
I also think, not to be contrary, is that we are there to understand their priorities and to help them move forward with those.
But are they,
That's
is
right.
this
So then
meeting
they
for
should
them
write
to
the
tell
business
us? I thought
statement.
that's what this was. Or is this meeting for us to go, got your memo, duly noted, here's what we'd like to do and run with? Can we have your blessing on that?
When I briefly spoke with them about this, they were in support of these things. They were.
Did you talk
they
to the
were,
whole board, by the way?
I did, and it was just really like an interview, but we just talked
To be
about.
appointed to the
I
committee.
see, I see.
But,
She had to meet them to be appointed.
but I talked with
Okay.
John a couple times in addition, right, to talking with the committee. But, what I got out of it was that they were in support of this, that's what, it was written up about. And they wanted to learn more from us, seeing us as kind of the advisors and the experts. So I do agree with you that it makes sense for us to give the recommendations, and the focuses versus, I didn't get the sense that they had very specific directions they wanted us to go in aside from this.
Well, that's where we should be able to run, but are you gonna block us, help us, or like stay out of the way?
Supportive.
But that's
John
kinda gotta
doesn't
be
wanna
on
be
record.
not to be in the forefront of everything. Like, we don't wanna be the leader of New Canaan, Greenwich, everybody that's the first person to do everything, right? That's not the mentality that I sensed. It was more like, let's go with the flow. If this will help and add value to the town, we're going to support these types of projects. Sell them to us, let us know how it's going. We're gonna work with you the whole time. We want involvement, we want to understand what you're working on, how it's gonna add value, what the timeline looks like, et cetera.
It really sounds like they want a proposal from us, and I think they're gonna be quite surprised to learn how far we are behind in some of these things compared to other towns.
And we cannot
Including EVs, including leaf blowers.
Yes, and we cannot communicate all of that on Monday night.
No.
We start by having an introduction, and I guess I have seen it Monday as exactly what you say, a place to understand how we're gonna work together. And that we're not gonna make all kinds of proposals and have them worked out on December 2nd. But we have an opportunity to speak to the Board of Selectmen, which we did not have in all of 2023 when we functioned as a committee. So I think this is a fabulous place to start, and
They don't want us to run off in all kinds of directions.
No.
They do want us to focus on the
Right,
projects
sure.
that we are focused on, right?
They're inviting
Got
us
it.
to give them our proposed agenda in a way. And-
Yes.
And that's our vision, that this is what we love to be trying to do. And here's certain things that we need to ask of you to do these kinds of things. What do you think? That's the only
Yeah.
question I wanna hear is,
Right.
what do you think about what we are proposing? Rather than,
Agreed.
hey, what do you guys think you'd like to have us do? I'm not in for one of those.
No, I agree.
They don't know.
They don't know.
We know.
They're curious
Yes.
about some
They'd
of
like
this
to
stuff,
know.
and I think
Yeah.
some of them in particular want more education around, but that's not the right place to
That's
do
right.
that. But yeah,
okay, so
So
the.
are you going, you're going?
Anybody, all of us can go. I am willing to make the look back. I'm willing to hand over
I mean, it sounds like it's,
the look forward. I'm willing to do the whole thing. What we
Handful.
present is going to will either be on a written document or hopefully a PowerPoint, once I figure out how the Board of Selectmen work.
so a handful of where we've been highlights.
Yes.
I'd say a sentence of the sleeper year. And we don't need to elaborate on that, but there's a reason why 24 looks the way it does. And more time spent on, okay, we wanna move forward. Here's the things we wanna do. Here's the things we've started that were really important, that we have some momentum on. Are you gonna support us in this? Are you on board with this?
I think we're all saying the same thing at
Yes.
this point. And the question is, what are those things? We've only got till December 2nd to lay it out.
I think the school administration was always a hot topic.
Well, that's in the specific ask. Sometimes the vision itself, you were just saying, here are the things we want to do. What are the things we want to do?
Get into schools and look at their recycling program.
Well, okay, so food scrap program, schools, I would add, you
Because we
know,
already have a lot of buy-in from the schools, they're not opposed to it.
well, so there are also unions in the schools, and I mean, it's not a slam dunk by any means.
But I think, and again, I'm telling you, what we've spent a lot of time on, what makes the most bang for our buck as a community, for the earth, like, right? food scraps. We got a lot of support for that from parents. Kids love that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
If they see a green bin or a yellow bin, know that goes in the yellow bin, they're gonna do it all day long.
We're
And then you
agreed.
have the administrative element.
We're agreed that the food scrap program, #1, is in the schools. And we're also agreed that when it comes to specific asks, there are some asks we need there in terms of helping us
Yeah.
to get through the roadblocks.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but I would just say under food scraps, we might also put in trying to do something with the haulers and trying to do something with local businesses and large organizations.
Yes, and I took that note down.
Right, so
to-
that's the first thing, is food scraps. What's the second thing? Are we gonna bring up EVs or
I don't think so. I think then we're gonna go to resident awareness and keep pushing that and the compost and like, it'd be nice to incentivize people. Right now, help me out if you're on the Moms of Dairy and something just went up. Oh, 2 disposable units merged and the prices are changing and they're coming at these oddball hours. People are wondering what they should do with their garbage. Like, there's a bite in the water. People want a better option.
Amanda, I
and
am 100% in agreement with you because I saw those and I responded to several of them and I screen captured them.
So
Because
like, I think
all
there's a
gonna-
piece of that
Yep.
is #2. I think that sustainability CT, that certification, like, it's hard to have a
That's
benefit.
the last one.
Yeah.
Fine, but it's hard to have a benefit and like talk about, we're not front of the game, right? Darien's not like at the beginning of the race here. We're in the tail end, so I think there's a piece in that going forward. We want, like, it's hard to get a certification like that and then be like, well, you're a lot of paper shovelers, not much bang for it, I'm getting out. I think you leave a lot on the table going forward, and I don't know that we want to do that. I think you guys decide. We go in of CT, sustainable CT has a lot of opportunity and reasons we want to stay certified, and we want your support because it's a heavy load.
And we'll determine when we do it.
need their
And that's
support.
how we stay competitive and engaged with and involved and collaborating with our towns to make Connecticut better.
Someone else may, there may be, I don't know.
I mean, you kind of, you're right, you kind of have to go all in. If we need their support, we need them to work with us, perhaps we need administrative support for some of this stuff as well.
Exactly.
So I think that's an
I would put CT
ask.
at the bottom of our list.
I'm fine with that.
Yep.
Do you have a meeting in here now?
Hi.
Hi.
Who's the chairman?
Hi.
I'm Ray Slavin from the RTC. There's an opening, right, on the commission, and I need a copy of the last minutes that you had, so I can give to the person that will be recruited.
Okay, well.
My computer's down, that's the
Okay, well,
problem.
you know what, we are just wrapping up our meeting.
Welcome, nice to meet you.
Okay, hi.
We are just wrapping up our meeting, and I think what we're going to do, if you give us a minute, because we can call our meeting to an adjournment and then help you out with what you're looking
So,
for.
right here. Okay.
That would be
Thank you.
great, that'd be fabulous.
So, I think we've got 2 things nailed here. You know, we've got the food scrap nailed, we got the bottom one for the sustainable CT. Leaf blowers,
I throw it on there because I think it's
we did a
awesome.
fair amount of work on it last year.
I think that the way we would do that is to,
I think they'll shoot it down, but I think it should
well,
be there.
maybe a way to say
Telling
it.
them how far behind we are with other towns and.
I wonder if we could get a couple of wins under our belt and go back to the leaf blowers. I agree with you. I think it's huge. It'd be an environmental win, right? But just don't think, I think that is, it might be the sense that we're kind of going off in different directions and not focused on the topics here as much as, you know.
It's not on
I
this
think
sheet.
it's
There's
important.
not much here, frankly.
I know.
Well, let's start here. The other
Wait,
one
wait.
though, Cliff, is the people awareness. Resident awareness. So you got 3.
And that outreach could include, you know, the noise of leaf blow. We do a lot of outreach on many topics that are beyond just the general stuff.
Yeah.
And Carolyn was really good at, there's a lot of, someone's gonna have, if we're gonna keep social media going or work with a communications manager, so
Yeah.
there's a lot of work to
So
do.
we're not gonna say leaf blowers now. I think we need to say something, and we'd like to be able to come back to you with more specific projects, recommendations for projects that should be
Well,
done.
and I think the way to do that is to give them an update on what our peer communities are doing when it comes to
Yes,
EV
that's a
infrastructure
great
and
way
leaf
to do it.
blowers.
Great.
Because
Okay.
we're not making a recommendation right now, we haven't had a committee for a
No.
year, we don't have current data.
No, we're just-
But we can say the topics that our peer communities are working on,
Yes.
that we would like to engage with you
Okay,
with.
if you want to
would
do
be
it that way,
those.
that's fine. To me, that's a good back door. If you can't
Yes.
put it out there from the front door, let's go the back door. But we want to get to those things.
Absolutely.
So, I'm just gonna call it a PowerPoint because that's
Yeah,
what my head
yeah.
goes to. 3 minutes on history, and then we'll give them the background-ish, right, give or take on the 3 minutes. Specific acts for support, any specific budgetary items that come to mind. I mean, for me, some of the communication materials and things like that might come to mind that could benefit us for, you know, if we wanna set up a table and talk about something, there are some opportunities to do little, you know, printing and things like that, right? So, you know, perhaps there's budgetary.
Well,
items on
the answer to the question from the selectmen is who our town liaison is. And in the past, it was the Public Works Department, Ed Gentile and
Okay.
Tony Campanella. Whether that is the same relationship that's going to happen now, or whether there's a different relationship, I do not know the answer to that. But that's an open question right now, which I submitted to them when I confirmed this meeting, saying who will be our liaison.
What would you like it to be?
I don't think that I don't,
It'd be, I think it might be.
I don't,
helpful to go
You don't
right-
care?
right up.
it might be the town administrator, it might be Public Works, it might be the selectman's office, I don't know. And I don't feel totally like I have an answer to that question right now.
I feel as though a lot of this ties directly to Department of Public Works. So much of it ties directly to them, and that they've got the budget that can handle these things, and that Ed, I mean, I think we've had mixed experiences. My experiences have been very favorable, and I think it'd be good if that were to happen again, and maybe we should ask for it.
I think what's most important is that there be an agreement that there's a willing partner, and so I don't feel it's my
Okay.
place to define who that partner is
Well,
right now.
it's not
Okay.
defining, it's requesting, but okay, I'll go with that.
Um,
I'll go with that.
Okay, it is 1:25. Is there a motion to adjourn
I
this
so
meeting?
moved, so moved.
Okay, I second, we are adjourned at
Okay.
1:25.
Thank you very much.
And Channel 79 is off.